Good morning, Rabbi.
Morning, Joe.
I see you got the crew with you.
These are my buds.
And I see you're wearing a khaki shirt, and I like the palm tree. And it brings to mind a situation that popped up recently. And I will try not to take too long to explain this. But when I was but a lad, there was a TV show, like one of the many children's shows, back in the day when we only had 3 channels, where the host played a number of different characters.
Mhm.
He had a clown outfit that he used to teach math. He had another outfit to do songs. He wore his own street clothes to do other things. And
Mhm.
then at one point, in order to teach about animals and wildlife, he put on a pith helmet and a khaki shirt, like the one you have on. And he put on a persona called Jungle Bob. And he would start each segment the same way. It's time to say ooga booga. And that enthralled me, just the absurdity of it. And it became part of my lifestyle. I would run around the house driving my parents crazy saying ooga booga. It's time to say ooga booga, ooga booga. And then as I went into high school, I would turn whenever somebody was saying something, and I would change the subject by saying, it's time to say ooga booga. And I did that through college in the 60s and the 70s when awareness and stuff like that, but it never made the connection. I told it to my daughter as she was growing up. And then the other day she pointed out to me, Dad, some people might take you saying ooga booga the wrong way. And I realized she was right, but it's part of me. And I thought back about how I grew up and all the TV commercials that use stereotypical images that are inappropriate and things like that we would all go, oh my God, I can't believe they showed that. But here I am saying ooga booga because it's very hard for me not to say ooga booga. For the 3 weeks since we talked about it, I've said it at least a half dozen times.
More than you ever said it in your life.
Yeah, I keep trying not to say it, and it just keeps popping in. How do we deal with that? How do we adapt to society and this thing that's part of me and I'm trying to get rid of?
Yeah, let's start with a quick aside. The worst strategy for stopping a behavior is to say, I'm going to stop doing it. The example I use is, please don't think about milk. Whatever you do, don't think about milk. And of course, you're thinking about milk and we'll continue. So we'll do another session, if we haven't already, on dealing with a behavior or a thought. The first thing we have to acknowledge is saying, I'm not going to say it, does not work. So let's not do what doesn't work. So we want to bring up, I keep saying this. Okay, it's part of me, it's part of a habit. But what comes to my mind, Joe, is a lot of things that are going on currently with history. I mean, we've all heard those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. We've also heard those who don't study history doom the rest of us to watch them repeat history. And history, everyone acknowledges, is very important. So our topic here and what we want to address is, given a particular time and place, this was the behavior. The fact that it's no longer correct today tells us about language evolving and respect for other people. It doesn't mean we shouldn't examine the past. It doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about what was done. And therein lies the danger. If we ignore and say, well, that's not appropriate to say, we're not going to talk about it, then we've missed a learning, teaching moment about culture, about society, about how we treated each other. That great Maxwell House commercial with the coffee. My wife makes a great cup of coffee. I think I'll keep her. Today, we acknowledge, and this is where the lesson comes from. We now can look at it and say, that's not appropriate and that's not right. But that tells us how people looked at women in the 50s. I heard the other day, someone referred to their doctor as a woman doctor. And I just shook my head and said, no, you have a doctor. And I remember in the hospital, a patient saying, I have a male nurse. No, you have a nurse. And at one time, we want to acknowledge that's what was said. And the only way we're going to move ahead is to acknowledge that we had inappropriate language like ooga booga, or we treated people disrespectfully, and we don't anymore. And therein lies the key, Joe, is we look at what happened throughout history, 50s, 60s. We look with teaching, we look at the way we respect other professions, the way we treat, we look at all of this, and then we say, that was then. And then was then. So I'm not going to go back and rewrite history. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. But I am going to acknowledge that we either need to change our attitude or it's changed. And that's the perfect opportunity. We don't want to use these images or believe them today. However, there are many people around today who want to take us back to the 50s. Why? Because women knew their place, Blacks knew their place, Jews knew their place, and white men ruled supreme. That was the 50s. And people want to return to that particular time and place. They want to bring it back again. And that's what's not appropriate. It's appropriate to look, what did that attitude do to people? And who did it stifle? And how many cures for disease could we have had we let people go to school? How many great inventions would there be if we had allowed different minorities, different individuals, different cultures to participate equally? Look at everything we lost with that attitude and behavior. And we want to point out, not only is it not appropriate, it's counterproductive. You know, the example I love to use, Joe, is, I was chaplain with the Bel Air Volunteer Fire Company for 100 years, and I live on the 3rd floor of a high rise. If something happens to the building and they bring the tower truck and they put the ladder up, it's totally irrelevant. I've mentioned this before. Anything about the person coming, except can they carry me down? And any of these attitudes from the 50s brought into the 21st century is harmful and detrimental. However, there's nothing wrong with pointing it out and just reinforcing that that's what would happen then. And it wasn't a good idea, it wasn't productive, and it actually set us back. And I think that's what we really want to focus on. If you want to have a stupid expression, then instead of saying to yourself, I'm not going to say it, say to yourself, I'm just going to be alert when I say it. I'm going to say it in the privacy of my home, or when I'm working, or with someone that knows that it's a childhood expression and won't take it, because it's not you're not using it in the way it was intended to put people down, derogatory. It's like sneezing. It's a knee-jerk reaction. So you want to control when you say it and stop trying not to say it. I don't know if you can work on that, can you?
I don't know if I can either. I worry about it. I feel guilt when I say that now, every time I say it. I used to enjoy saying it and flash back to my childhood. Now I just say, oh my gosh, I've got to do something to stop myself from saying it.
But that's not working, just like not thinking about milk. It's not working and it won't work. It's never worked. Not thinking about something causes the mind to think about it because you're bringing it up. Otherwise,
so what do I say? So what do I say to people when I say ooga booga and they look at me and say, you said what?
And your response is, oh, I'm working on it. Or after a while, Joe, if the response from people is negative enough, you will just stop. Because you don't want to feel guilty, you don't want to be embarrassed. And if people ignore it, that's even better, because you're not getting a rise out of anyone. And, I use a lot of Yiddish expressions, and that's really helpful because people have no idea what I'm saying. So they're perfectly safe. Expressions, see, you go around saying ooga booga. I have a lot of Yiddish expressions from growing up. And even among a lot of Jews, they know I'm speaking Yiddish, but don't know what I'm saying. So it's perfectly safe. So you may want to find something in Gaelic, or say something with a heavy brogue, in which case, no, we won't understand you. And you can say whatever you want.
There you go, Rabbi. Or maybe I should just learn Yiddish.
Yeah, I'll be glad to teach you some. We have some very nice expressions in Yiddish that one of the neat things about, there are no swear words in Yiddish, by the way. There are no swear words in Hebrew. Hebrew is a sacred language. You can't swear, be obscene. That's a better word. You can't be obscene in a sacred language. So you create these roundabout ways, and then you use words that are mean other things. And only if you know what they mean is it something derogatory or something nasty. Otherwise, it's just a perfectly good word. And I can say some perfectly good words.
Well, there you go. A George Carlin routine pops into my mind right now. But
Exactly.
you've shown me the way, Rabbi, as you always do. Thank you so much.
And let me know how you're progressing and when you're ready to learn some good Yiddish. Be gesund.